Welcome back to Yang Daily. I know it's been a long time. I'm sorry, don't hurt me. There's been a ton of news and Easter stuff going on. I had to dye eggs and hide them and search for them. I've been worked to the bone, okay? But hey, I made a little something for all of you to make up for it. Follow the link below or search on Twitter for Eggdrew Yang. You won't regret it. Okay, you might regret it, but do it anyway. All right, enough shenanigans. We got to get on with the news because there's a lot to get through, and some of it is huge. Let's dig in. Good news, the IRS has launched a new web portal to allow citizens who did not file in 2018 or 2019 taxes to get their $1,200 stimulus. You can set up your direct deposit there as well. If you haven't filed taxes, get on this pronto at the link below so you can get your money now. Payments will be going out very soon. You can also use the Cash App for direct deposit if you don't have a bank account or don't want one. Now for some huge good news. UBI advocacy is still picking up steam, and who is the newest convert? The Pope. Pope Francis, in his Easter address, encouraged activists to keep up their efforts and said, quote, "This may be the time to consider a universal basic wage," end quote. Boom! Now, the use of the word wage instead of income is slightly concerning. Technically, what he said is more suggestive of communism than UBI, but it seems highly likely that he simply misused the term or has a different interpretation of it, as he also spoke of how much work is currently going unrecognized and uncompensated, such as stay-at-home parents, volunteers, and activists, which is something that UBI would help with, not wages. The author, who apparently heard the Pope's address, certainly seemed to have no doubt that he was proposing UBI. So I think it's highly likely that he's just interchanging wage and income in this case, because he sees UBI primarily as a way to compensate everyone for the work that the market does not. This is so huge for us, Yang Gang. Even the church, which has for centuries vaunted the dignity of work, is now recognizing that there is no real way to define what is work and what is not, and that the free market certainly fails to do so. We may have a very, very powerful new ally in this fight. I am so pumped. And I'm not the only one. We're trending hashtag Pope for UBI today. Join us. Amusingly, Pope Francis also provided a direct prescription for dealing with panhandlers, quote, "Give them money and don't worry about it," end quote. Elsewhere, Reform Scotland is pushing for a permanent UBI of €5,200 for adults and $2,600 for kids under 16, funded by income taxes. Here at home, the Progressive Caucus is demanding that Pelosi and House Dems pass a bill including a 2K, 1K UBI for up to a year, along with other demands such as moratorium on evictions, student debt relief up to $30,000, opening Medicare to all, and so on. Cesar Marquez and other leaders in the movement are calling on all Yang Gang to do 5 calls a day to your representatives in Congress as the most effective thing we can do right now to get UBI into the next bill. And I agree that this is vitally important. This crisis has everyone scared, angry, and paying attention to politics in an unprecedented way that we cannot afford to let slip by. Normally, most people are completely ignorant of what's going on and vote for the last name they hear, if they vote at all. This pandemic and the economic repercussions have knocked people out of their complacency. This is our chance to make things happen. The worst thing that can happen at this point is that the country falls back into complacency and normalcy as the crisis diminishes. The economy will take years to recover, but our chance to enact UBI will evaporate within weeks. As soon as people see the infection rates dropping, they will start to lose their passion and fall back into old routines and put their blinders back on and let themselves and our country continue to slip slowly into ruin. We cannot allow that to happen. We need to recruit those people right now, organize them into political action, and put our full weight onto Congress now while we have the leverage on our side. The next weeks will decide the future for years or decades to come. It has never been more important for us to take action. You know how to contact your representatives through ResistBot or Income Movement or any of the other resources you can find out there. You'll also find talking points, templates, and more at the Twitter link below. 5 calls a day, Yang Gang. Let's get it done. I found the time to listen to Scott's new article. While there's not a lot of new information in it for people who have been following his work, it's a great collection of some of his arguments for UBI. There is one new argument, which is that we need to flatten the welfare bureaucracy curve, just as we're flattening the infection curve, to avoid overloading the system. I think we can all see the truth of that. Other topics include why Congress focusing on UI is a mistake, how it encourages employers to fire their employees, how we may never recover our pre-pandemic job numbers, and if we do, it will take years, how that's going to spike deaths of despair, abuse, crime, and other issues, how automation is accelerating. One line I really loved was, "Machines may be great workers, but they're terrible customers," i.e., we will still need people to consume, even if there aren't jobs to earn wages. And of course, it covers how UBI could alleviate all these issues and lead us to a better future. It's a great overview for why we need UBI right now and continuing in perpetuity. A lot of people are sharing this article with their representatives and anyone else, and I totally agree that's a great idea. Please send a letter or email to your representatives and ask them to read or listen to Scott's article. It will be the best 20 minutes they ever spent. Scott also found another great referral bonus program for us to get free money from. Register an account with Aspiration Bank, deposit $10, and you'll get $50 back, plus $25 to donate to causes. That's a free $40 right off the start, plus $25 for charity, but it gets better, because whenever someone uses your link, you get another $50 for yourself and $25 for charity. That is wild. Imagine how much we can make if we all participate in sharing and using each other's referrals. We need to get this organized pronto. Link below. Renowned YangDang videographer James Treacle has produced another stunning video, this time on workism, the ideology, or as James frames it, religion, of everyone being forced to work to justify their existence. He examines the origins of this theology, how it conflates human value with economic value, values people differently based on their labor, how it puts everyone in poverty in paradoxical social situations, perverts our market incentives, undermines the positive collective instincts of our species, our progress, and more. It's a hard look at our most fundamental societal values and not a rosy one, but well worth a watch and a bookmark. We have a new YangDailyPodcast podcast called the Really for Real Again podcast, hosted by the Scream Team, whose most recent episode featured the one and only Lacey Delane. Check it out below if you're looking for more casual YangDang hangs. We got a new article from Evelyn Yang regarding autism from Matthew Rosa. They discuss in general what it's like having an autistic child, how their brains differ from neurotypicals, the terminology around autism, and so on. Check it out below if you're interested. The New York Times put out an article on income equality and its effect over the past 50 years or so, and found something very intriguing. Their analysis was that if income inequality had not exploded over the past 40 years, the bottom 90% of households today would be making $12,000 per year more. Sound familiar? It should. Basically, they found that Yang's $1,000 a month UBI is exactly what is owed to correct the income redistribution that has happened over the past 40 years. Next time someone calls UBI theft or immoral redistribution, you can let them know that it's actually a reversal of the theft and redistribution that's already occurred. You can find the article below. Another interesting article came forth from Ashley Pratt regarding Biden's VP pick. In it, Biden reveals that he had conversations with Obama about how to go about selecting a VP recently, and that Obama's advice was, quote, "Find the yin to your yang," end quote, and someone who has experience in the areas you're lacking. In addition, Obama said the candidate would have to shore up areas where Biden is lacking, particularly his lack of technological savvy, which is suddenly more important than ever. Whomever he selects would have to be able to take his campaign further into the 21st century than he could alone, with more virtual happy hours and events and a broader spread on social media than the typical Clinton or Obama campaign alums have been known for to date. Okay, so this is wild. Can someone check if Obama was winking and nudging while saying all this? Because it sure as hell sounds to me like he's doing everything he possibly can to hint to Biden that Eggdrew Yang is the VP he needs. Tech savvy, online presence, strengths where Biden is weak, which would include appealing to the youth and progressives, And he's even saying yin to your yang like he's trying to subconsciously shove the name into Biden's skull. Am I crazy? Am I reaching here for something I want to be true? This seems like a lot of subjective evidence from one conversation, and I don't see how it points to anyone more than Yang. I think Obama is Yang. Why did Biden have to come out and commit to a female VP? Do you think they have to be female or just identify as a woman? Because I've seen some disturbing memes of Yang as a lady that we might need to fall back on to save the country here. Biden, why must you ruin everything at every opportunity? Moving on. Philip DeFranco did a podcast episode on UBI and sort of interviewed Yang about the current situation with EUBI. Philip did a review of what UBI is and a pro and con section. His review and his pros were actually quite good, and I was going to bookmark it as a great, efficient introduction. Unfortunately, his con section had some major flaws and oversights. For one, he mischaracterized UBI as expensive and skipped all the financial value generated by it. When you look at the whole package, UBI is not expensive at all. It is an investment in our people which generates value. The important point is that a $1,000 per month per adult UBI pays for nearly 1/3 of itself via increased tax revenue from GDP growth and cost savings on mostly poverty-related expenses, healthcare, crime, homelessness, etc. This is without even replacing welfare. With that understood, it doesn't really even matter how you pay for the rest of it because it's already generated value. Even if you just did a simple income or consumption tax, the citizenry would be collectively paying in $2 and getting out $3 for a return on investment of 50%. UBI grows the money you put into it. Good luck arguing that you can't afford to make money. The second and more egregious error was that he brought up the Finland experiment, which is a common but terribly misappropriated example, to object that UBI doesn't work or disincentivizes work. First off, Finland's experiment was not a UBI. It was an unemployment program, not universal at all, among other issues. Second, the only way in which it failed was in not increasing employment, which is not even a goal of UBI. So consider how ridiculous it is to take an experiment that was not UBI and which failed at something totally irrelevant to UBI, and then claim that proves UBI doesn't work. Yeah. And third, the Finland experiment also did not find it reduced labor force participation. So even that twisted implementation didn't find a disincentive to work. As for UBI's effect on work ethic, it's pretty much flat. No trial of UBI or cash grants has found any significant reduction in the labor force. Some trials have also found increases in hours worked due to recipients having the capital and security to become self-employed or gain skills needed to get better jobs, or due to new jobs being created. So it can oscillate a bit, but the findings show very consistently that UBI will not cause significant portions of the population to leave the labor force, much less to stop working altogether. As we've discussed, there are more forms of work than employment. Then Philip framed it as though you would have to replace welfare to pay for UBI, which is not true. As mentioned previously, UBI generates value even without replacing welfare. The reason you would want to replace welfare would be to replace a terrible system with a good one, increasing the UBI proportionally to whatever programs you remove. Finally, Philip suggested some on welfare would be worse off with UBI, but of course that depends entirely on what is replaced and what the UBI benefit is. And in Yang's UBI, it's literally impossible to be worse off because it's opt-in. If you get more from the welfare programs than you would from Yang's UBI, which is very rare, you can just stick with those. Or if the benefit amount is close and you prefer the freedom of no more means testing, reporting, applications, bureaucratic errors, work requirements, etc., then you can choose the UBI. Entirely up to you. So those were some pretty big issues in his analysis that you should be aware of if you, like me, were considering sharing his episode. In other news, Mike Broy here has a new program for youth volunteers to coordinate closely with campaign staff in order to learn how campaigns work and engage Kentucky voters. If you're young and in Kentucky, head on over to the link below and check it out. Sounds like a great opportunity if you want to help the campaign and or get some good experience in politics. Mike also had an hour-long interview with Heidi Briones where you can hear about her background, platform, and get to know her. For example, did you know that Heidi used to work at a Tesla production plant? I didn't. She's led quite a life. Check it out below. The Nerds for Yang interview with David Kim finally aired. It's a nearly 2 hour long introduction to the California UBI congressional candidate. If you're a California resident, then absolutely have a listen. But even if you're not, we should all support every UBI candidate. Check it out below. Finally, Stephen Smith and Maggie Kosek have joined forces to create one of the most beautiful murals I have ever seen of humanity forward, with Yang looking to the future, in Oakland, California. It's absolutely striking. You're really missing out if you don't have a look at the link below. Trust me. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Help us trend hashtag Pope for UBI, get started on your 5 calls to your reps, share Scott's new article with them, set up an Aspiration Bank account for some free cash, watch Treacle's Workism video, try out the Really for Real Again podcast, sign up with Youth for Kentucky, if applicable, check out the UBI caucus interviews and town halls, and the Humanity Forward mural, print and hand out your neighborhood outreach cards, get your taxes filed or visit the IRS portal so you can get your $1,200, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, or United Way if you need help, call and write Trump, Pelosi, McConnell, Graham, Dean, and Schumer why true UBI stimulus is the best solution, use ResistBot or Income Movement to easily contact all your representatives, consider what we can do to push the movement forward in this critical moment, and discuss with others at the local hubs in the support links. And don't forget to Yang Daily.